there's an echo somewhere.
Chairman, I think it's you, Chairman. You're on two screens now. We can see two of you, Chairman.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? No.
Yeah.
Still got an echo.
Tutor, I think you've got two windows open. Have you got two windows open with Starleaf in it? I think that's what's causing the feedback, like Steve says.
Yeah. Tudor, you do have two windows open. I can disconnect one of them for you. Shall I do that now?
All right. Yes. Hello, Chris.
Tudor, I believe we might be ready to proceed now.
Well, I got nothing on me. I can't see anyone at the moment.
Oh.
It's gone blank.
We can see and hear you, Tudor. So if you want to continue, that's fine.
I know I'm ugly, like, but right. Welcome everyone to the South Wales Fire and Rescue Authority meeting being held today, Monday, the 19th of July, 2021. Apologies, please, Sarah.
So apologies we have so far are Councillor White, Councillor Ellsbury and Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. Can we now have a roll call? Sarah, please.
Certainly. Councillor Hodgins. No. Councillor Shaw.
Yes, present.
Hello. Councillor Davies.
Present.
Councillor Hussey.
Present.
Councillor Ali.
Present.
Councillor Ibrahim. No. Councillor Lister. Councillor Norton.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Colbran.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. No, I can't see Councillor Smith or hear her. Councillor Spencer. No. Councillor Thomas has given apologies. Councillor Bradwick.
Yes, present.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Holmes.
Yes, present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Evans.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Molson.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie. No. Thank you, Tudor. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Sarah. Item 2, Declaration of Interest. Members of the Fire and Rescue Authority are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare both orally and in writing any personal and or prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with provision of the Local Government Act 2000. The Fire and Rescue Authority standing orders and the Members' Code of Conduct. Any declarations of interest?
Hi, Jeff speaking. Hi, Scott. Are we...
Hello.
Hello.
I got a declaration of interest regarding page 39, the new insight, because I sit on my local planning authority. I should just declare now. Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else?
Chairman, I just declare interest, which I've done in the past, regard to building control. I am a chartered building engineer surveyor working in the private practice. But I don't think it's going to affect this meeting.
Thank you. Any other declaration of interest? None? Right, I go to item 3, Chairman's announcements. It is with great sadness that we heard of the passing of firefighter Stuart Griffiths. Since 2002, Stuart has been served on many stations across South Wales. He was truly dedicated and a professional firefighter who will be sorely missed by so many. Our thoughts and sympathies are with Stuart's family, friends, colleagues, and such difficult times. Can we now please sit and have a 1 minute silence in respect to his family and himself? Thank you.
Chair, before you go on, just an email just come through from Councillor Spencer saying that he's having difficulties in getting through. So I just wanted to let you know it's come through to me. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, following the Welsh Government's elections and the Cabinet portfolio announcements, I was pleased to see that we've maintained our Deputy Minister, Hannah Blythen. Myself and our Chief and the Chairs and Chiefs of Mid and West and North Wales met with the Deputy Minister on the 7th of July. It was a brief meeting, but I will ask the Chief to give the members a brief overview. Hugh, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. As the Chair said, it was a fairly brief meeting. I think it was important to get an early meeting in the diary with the Deputy Minister as she takes on a new portfolio, which now includes social partnership as well. A couple of items that we did discuss is the ongoing commitment around the role of a firefighter in Wales, and Welsh Government confirmed their ambition is to broaden the role of a firefighter across Wales to include assisting our NHS colleagues in a manner in which is deemed appropriate. Dewi Rose is sitting on a technical working group and working with colleagues from NHS and the other 2 Welsh Fire and Rescue Services in scoping out what that looks like. But it is, as there was a ministerial statement pre-election, whilst there's been a cabinet reshuffle and a new health minister, that commitment has been reconfirmed at the meeting. So it's a piece of work that's ongoing, and hopefully in the not too distant future we can get this over the line. There's ongoing discussion at a negotiation level with the minister herself and her advisors and officials with the Fire Brigade Union, and then that is extended into other staff groups, particularly from the NHS, as we take this forward collectively. We were advised also that the Minister's advisor, Mr. Dan Stevens, he's carrying out a thematic review to identify the capacity that the 3 Welsh Fire and Rescue Services may have or not have to undertake the roles with the NHS support. We also discussed the Emergency Services Mobile Communication Programme, the delay in that and the costs that are likely to impact for us as a service as we transition from airwave to ESMCP and also to a new way of working in time to come. We were advised, and it has now gone out as a public statement, so I can send members a link. The Welsh Government have announced their remediation funding for building safety regime. That is called now a passport to safety. and there's a public fund available for landlords, leaseholders to make a bid against for a grant or to undertake an assessment of the building to start with. We also had a brief conversation on the impact of COVID and informed the Deputy Minister and others in the meeting that we are now starting to see a slight increase in the number of people that are self-isolated and testing positive for COVID, which is probably no different than our background community transmission rates as well. As a service, we maintain in our infection prevention control, safe systems of work and the health surveillance procedures that we've got with lateral flow tests for all staff as well. And the Deputy Minister has asked that she would like, during summer recess, to come out and make some visits to the respective services. So we look for opportunities in the next few weeks to put an invite to the Deputy Minister to come and visit appropriate things in Southport, also adhering to whatever restrictions and regulations are in place, adapted for the time regarding COVID. Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Hugh. And just to make another point, as I said at the meeting, it was nice to have continuity. It's the first time that we've had a return of a minister. So the continuity is there for the first time. Any questions to Hugh on what he just made? No?
Only a comment, Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
That I'm really pleased with the way they're thinking the way forward with the joint operations with health and our service. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Right, the Chief has now been notified that our COVID assistance to the Welsh Ambulance Service has now concluded. A lovely certificate of appreciation has been received, and I can announce through the volunteers we have provided additional 535 shifts to our ambulance colleagues. We've also have a staff of volunteering on community vaccination centres, and we have up to date provided 458 shifts. There has been an ongoing paid discussion for all groups of service staff, and I can announce that the representative bodies have reached an agreement with the employers. Grey Book and Gold Book have accepted 1.5% increase, whilst the same offer has been made. Discussions and negotiations are ongoing with the Green Book employees. Hugh, could you clarify the different coding of colours for new members and others?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. The Grey Book staff, that's operational firefighters from firefighter up to and including area manager. And then a Gold Book staff are principal and brigade managers in the service. Green Book staff are corporate professional support staff, and they're the ones that the ongoing discussions are still going on with their respective representative bodies. There are different implementation dates for Grey and Gold Book. If my memory serves me right, Gold Book is from the beginning of the year, January, and Grey Book is from July. And our pay policy is that following our announcement, Chair, that the respective payments can then be authorised through our payroll section.
Thank you, Hugh. Could I ask at this moment, I'm looking blind at the moment, I'd like to resolve it. Is Jeff available at all?
He's still on the line.
Otherwise, I will get in touch with my own IT people. Steve?
Jeff, who's still online?
Right, yeah, but I'm working in the dark and I don't like the...
Chair, I understand you need to see people in the meeting to interact. We can take a pause if you want to disconnect and try and reconnect if that's okay.
I will try that first. If not, I'll get all the IT and then someone will have to continue chair until I come back in. All right.
Any problems? Any problems? Give me a ring, and then we can make the deputy chair to take over once we resolve that issue for you. But if we could take a temporary pause, that might help.
Unfortunately, the deputy chair, as he said, he's got to leave soon.
No, it's okay. They are coming till about 11:30.
Oh, right. That's all right then. Okay. Hey, C, will you take over the agenda at the moment?
Okay, Doctor. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, well, members, bear with me. Okay, then. So we go on to item agenda number 4 to receive the minutes of the fire service held on the 22nd of March. I'll do the pages separately. Let me go for any corrections or alterations. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, good grief, 17, 18, 19. Are members happy with those minutes of that meeting?
I'm happy to move,
I
Chairman.
move that, Steve.
Okay.
Seconded. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you ever so much, members. Accept those. Go to the minutes then on page 21 of the file of AGM. So 21. Bear with me a second. Pages now. 21, 22, 23.
You see me, hear me? I can see you now. Anyway,
25, 26, 27, 28. Are members happy with those minutes?
Yeah, move that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you ever so much. Then we go on to page 29 of the local pension board. 29, 30, 31. Are members happy with that? Those minutes, yep.
Chair.
Yep.
Yeah.
A brief comment, if I may. On page 29, it says that there was I'm sorry, I don't even sit on this committee, but it's words. And then if you turn over to page 30, in the paragraph beginning resolve that, it says members noted the. So it's exactly the same mistake has been replicated. My apologies for pedant.
No, okay, thank you so much. If you can amend that to be happy. Only question I got to say on the pensions board, as you know, I chair the pensions board. I am disappointed that our last meeting that 2 members of the unions did not turn up to the meeting or give apologies. You know, at the end of the day, we're there to protect the pensions of all firefighters up to the senior ranks. So if they could attend meetings, I'd be very, very grateful. Thank you ever so much. Chair, do you want to take over or do you want me to carry on with the minutes?
If we just finish off HR then. Okay.
Then on page 33 of the HR, so 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 and 40. Are members happy with that, Pam? Yep.
I'll move those minutes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, check.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Right, then we go to item 5, update of actions on page 41. Sarah?
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Oh, you're taking a get into you, right?
Yeah. Just a couple of actions to update on. First one regarding the acquisition of land for the relocation of the New Inn fire station. Progress for this one is that we've done the pre-planning application has all been completed. Initial surveys have all been completed. So surveys for noise, floods, highways, etc. They've all come back good. Part of the surveys did identify that some of the ground is made up ground. So we're having further intrusive surveys done on that part of the site. We've had an initial layout and concept plan drafted, and we're just waiting the outcomes of that further intrusive investigation, and they should be completed this week. So once we've had those, we'll be in a position to proceed through to a more formal offer. So that's the latest.
Anyone got any questions? Anyone got any questions for Geraint? Thank you, Geraint. Then we go on to item 6, report for decisions.
Chair, just two quick ones on the updates as well with the proposed terms of reference for the scrutiny committee. Obviously, they go back through the.
Finish, Geraint. My apology. Go on.
So the scrutiny terms of reference, they go back through the FAPM, HR inequalities, and the scrutiny committee itself now, and hopefully they'll all come through and they'll be proposed and brought back to the fire authority later in this municipal year then to be completed there. And then the final one is the Grenfell Tower Enquiry thematic review. That work is ongoing and in progress there, and the report will be coming back to the fire authority in September on that item.
Oh, thank you, Geraint. Sorry about that. Anyone got any questions of Geraint now?
Chairman, it's Councillor Hunter Jarvie here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've just come in on the telephone because I spent half an hour unsuccessfully trying to access through Starleaf. And the IT people have got me onto you now through this. So I'd like to register the fact that I'm present and I've got nothing to declare.
Right.
And I'm just on the telephone.
Sorry, who's that again? I just didn't catch the first name.
Hunter Jarvie.
Oh, Hunter. Well,
yeah.
All right, Hunter. Nice.
I've had trouble getting through today. It's been a nightmare, but I'm through on the phone now at last.
Nice to hear you anyway.
But
that's amazing.
Nothing to declare, sir.
All right. We got it recorded.
Right, thank you.
Could I also, at this stage, was obviously with the problems I had earlier, welcome Steve Frank on. Steve, you present from the Audit Wales? Steve, are you? Welcome to the meeting. I know you're observing, but are you all right? Right, thank you. Pardon?
He's okay. He's not on mute.
Oh, right. Okay, then we go to reports of decisions. I said 6.1 report on pre-consultation on our plan for 2022-23, which is on page 45. Sarah, you taking this?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
You all had a copy of it sent to you. You all received it. Anyone didn't receive it? Right, Sarah.
Thank you, members. So this is the report on the pre-consultation of our plans for 2022-23 and the strategic themes and proposed objectives for the plan for that year. So the main talking points are around the pre-consultation are that the pre-consultation completed on the 9th of July. This is a process where, with South Wales Fire and Rescue staff, our stakeholder panel and key partners, we use this to provide early assurance of our existing strategic planning and put forward ideas to be considered during 2023 planning cycle. We had 98 respondents to the pre-consultation survey, which on the face of it appears low. However, as this is a targeted engagement, we did expect this lower turnout. One of the things that we observed was that engagement with Joint Fire Control is lower than we would hope. So there will be specific engagement events with Joint Fire Control run during the October consultation process. The consultation itself contained open questions predominantly to give respondents the best opportunity to share their views. The results were that all 8 of our strategic themes were rated 4 or above out of 5 for importance, and that provides us assurance that these are still relevant for longer term planning. There were areas of improvement highlighted in areas of work that relate strongly to plans that we either already have in place or are currently developing. And the feedback that we've received will be shared with directorates during the development of specific tasks to support the 22-23 plan. We had a number of positive stakeholder testimonials, and there were items identified in this pre-consultation that resonated strongly with the recommendations during our recent IIP accreditation process, which gives us good assurance. There were some areas to focus less on, which were pointed towards our social media presence, a focus on partnership work and the volume of policies for management to follow and apply. And I'll now summarise the rationale for the changes to the proposed objectives below, which you can see on the paper that you received at the weekend. So under responding to your emergency, we've had a suggestion based on feedback in the pre-consultation to amend the wording on that to improve, to train all our personnel to respond to current and future risks in our communities. That made that objective more inclusive, particularly for Joint Fire Control. Under valuing our people, we suggest to move the IIP objective under this theme, as the recommendations are leaning more towards internal improvements. And we have also proposed a specific objective to support a bilingual service to mirror the drive of the Cymraeg 2050 strategy through Welsh Government. So that's to encourage and support a bilingual culture across the service. Under engaging and communicating, the proposal is to have one objective to capture broader engagement tasks, including those trying to meet the challenge of socio-economic disadvantage, and another to capture the return of hopefully larger scale community events in 22-23 along non-digital platforms. And under protecting our environment, the proposal is to retain the existing objectives, which relate strongly to our carbon reduction plan and our biodiversity plan. We're asking members to approve the proposed objectives going forward and to provide delegation to the Director of Corporate Services and Head of Corporate Support. The reason why we ask for that delegation and that flexibility is that so that we can respond to any shifts in focus on any potential external factors, or in fact, should we receive the results of the Welsh measure and the new National Fire Framework. So the recommendations are: one, to approve the proposed objectives for engagement events and publication in the consultation document, which is stage 2 of the annual improvement plan, which will be published by the 31st of October 21 for public consultation. And also to approve delegation to the Director of Corporate Services and Head of Corporate Support to review and refine the proposed objectives as necessary for the public consultation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, members, any questions, any comments? Report and document on consultation.
Chair, if I may.
Councillor Smith and Councillor Shaw have asked.
Right, Rod.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as you say, it's a very important document, and I'm more than happy to propose or second any move to agree. May I just comment, though, please, that how pleased I was that the investors in people objectives were assimilated. That report in itself was deep-reaching and very well conducted, frankly. So it's nice to see that incorporated into this adjunct. And well done, Sarah. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Rod. Wow.
Yeah, likewise, well done. I found interesting, Chairman, the third bullet point on the stakeholder testimonials, and felt it was a pity you didn't know who the individual was to follow up that comment, that I believe there are many changes that could be made, but I have every confidence in our senior management and their vision. A member of staff, undisclosed location. Rather intriguing, that one. No, I think it's fine, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Appreciate that, the officers. Anyone else got any comments or questions? Anyone showing their hands at all, Sarah?
No, Chair, I can't see anybody indicating to speak.
Right. Well, Rod has moved it. Is there a seconder for the recommendations 1 and 2? That's seconded.
I'll second, Chair.
We go to a vote now then, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor White?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Davies?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey? Councillor Hussey? No. We'll move on. Councillor Ali? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hussey's indicated visually. Councillor Ali?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Norton?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrand?
Yes, in agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer, I believe you've joined us.
Yes, in agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans?
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Molson.
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Drake. Thank you, visually, indicating visually. And Councillor Jarvie.
In favour.
Thank you. Thank you,
That
Chair.
that was unanimous then, okay. Right, we then go on to the next item, which is 6.2, the outcome and implementation of the job evaluation on page 47. And Andrew Jones from the head of HR. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I think Alison may want to
I'll see
open
if
up
you
the
will.
issue.
Right, well, I've only got a list here. They've excluded her, but I will allow it on this occasion. Alison, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members. Just to give a short introduction, and then I'll ask Andrew to cover off anything that I haven't. The report presents the outcomes of the job evaluation exercise and seeks Fire Authority agreement to implement the outcomes. In terms of the report itself, you will see that there's no personal data attached to the report. Obviously, we've taken this step because the report is in the public domain. So it's a high-level report of the outcomes. You will all know, I'm no doubt that job evaluation has touched you in different roles that you've had, but it's about essentially providing a consistent approach and assessing relative values of job roles across an organisation. And it's the job that's evaluated, not the individual, and that's key. We started this piece of work back in 2019, but we paused it when COVID emerged. So we kick-started it again in the autumn of last year. In terms of the number of roles and the types of roles that job evaluation touches for us as an organisation, it covers our corporate roles. So these are our Green Book roles. And there are 227 roles, but they are occupied by a total of 303 people. We brought in external consultants to help us with this task. They did the initial interviews with staff, and we used a system that the NJC recommends is purchased, which is an electronic system. So information is fed into the system and an output emerges. We introduced the local conventions as well. So, for example, with regard to finance, we looked at people with budget responsibility and accountability. All scores and outcomes have been moderated by a heads of service, and the headlines are presented in the paper. You'll see section 2.2 covers the headlines in terms of impact. So posts that are staying the same amount to 71.57%. Posts where there is an increase in grade are 21.13%. And posts where we are seeing a decrease in the grade are 7.3%. There is a cost associated with the outcome as well. And if you look at section 2.3, you will see that the additional cost annually is 115k circa. But for this financial year, obviously it would be a proportion of that amount, which is circa 47,000. There is also a cost to giving people pay protection so that the people whose grade would decrease, there is a cost associated with that, and that is a total cost over the 3-year period of £162,000, and this would be funded through existing reserves. In terms of next steps, if Fire Authority approve the approach today, the plan is that heads of service will meet all employees, and that's regardless of whether they're staying the same, going up or decreasing in grade. We've put in an appeals process which is based on best practice, and anyone who is in that category of a reduction in grade will receive support from us as a service and priority consideration for appointments that may come up over the next year or so. We will also be setting up a job evaluation panel, and what this will do, any significant changes in roles going forward, we will assess those in real time. I'll pause there. I've invited Andrew along to the meeting to cover anything that I haven't, so I'll just check, Andrew, if there's anything else you'd like to add. Andrew has very ably project managed this piece of work, and to say that we paused it and restarted it during COVID has been really excellent. So, Andrew, anything else?
Just a couple of things, Alison, and good morning, members. Just want to point out that we set up the project board, and for those of you that have had experience on job evaluation processes, you'll appreciate how intensive the process is. So a brief report really doesn't do justice to the effort that has been put in. So I'd like to record my thanks to the project board, managers and members of staff for their patience during what has been a long process, but one that we've conducted fairly and consistently across the board. We have consulted with the representative bodies throughout the process to keep them in the loop, and they'll play a part to it in the process also. The system that we used, as Alison alluded to, was the gauge system, which the NGC for Local Government Services recommend organisations use. I'm sure some of your unitary authorities may have made use of the system, and their expertise in guiding us through the process has also been invaluable. We have set up meetings provisionally with members of staff to afford the process that personal touch. So we are advising individuals on a one-to-one basis as to the outcome of job evaluation as it applies to their position. And those meetings will take place now at the end of the month. So we'll be looking at a meeting with around about 310 staff during the next 2 weeks, providing we receive approval from yourselves today. And that's pretty much it, Council.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alison and Andrew.
Thank you, Chair.
Any members, you obviously read the report, any members got any comments or questions or clarifications?
Yeah, could I ask a question, Chairman, please?
Can I ask a question as well, please, Chairman?
Who was the first one? Sorry.
Hunter.
No. Hunter, come on in, Hunter.
Thank you. It seems that we're going to have to take a lot of this on trust. We as a board really haven't got much information here. And we take it on trust that the external people, the evaluation team, as it were, have done a good job, and that we should rely on what they're saying, which is I'm happy to do, really. But there are parts of the report that I'm puzzled by. For instance, there are boxes with yeses and nos on 3.1, for example, and then 3.2. Legal, yes. No. Financial, yes. What's all that mean? You know, the report really. I'm used to reading reports, but I find this one difficult to follow.
Right, Alison, Andrew, can I clarify those questions?
Yes, Chair. So this is the new format report that we're using, and where we've stated a yes in a box, then generally the narrative is covered off in the paragraphs following that box. So yes, we've done some equality and diversity look at the outcomes. So we've done that. Impact in terms of Welsh language, in terms of reporting and roles as well. So that's the sort of thinking that we've done. So where there is a yes, we should have covered that off in terms of our look and our narrative. That makes sense.
And are you happy with the answer? Or?
Well, it makes sense, but it wasn't very. I didn't find the report very clear, to be honest with you. But I'm happy to go along with it if that's the wish of the rest of everyone. But I just feel that we haven't had much information, and I understand the reason for that it can't go in the public domain because a lot of it is sensitive for individual employees and so on and so forth. And I understand all that. So if you're happy that these external people were good at their job and did the right things, then obviously we got to go along with it.
Well, perhaps Alison.
Shall I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chair, if I may,
could you just follow up with something for the member to clarify it with him to make sure that he understands it, and the rest of us in that sense on those?
Yeah, certainly. It may be worth pointing out that the three assessors that came into the organisation are actually employed by PLAT HR, and PLAT HR are the company that supplies the system. So they are the specialists in essence.
Well, that's the difference between members and specialists. They know it, we don't, and obviously some members just need clarification. That's all I'm saying.
Yes,
and
that's right. Thank you, Chairman.
And I think it's a
hello.
If questions or there is concern of members, just to clarify it, just by giving the answers to Hunter, or and saying, well, look, this is the question. We try to clarify. If you're going to go to the experts, ask them to do it.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
Hunter, you wanted to come back in?
No, that's fine. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Hunter.
Chairman, Councillors Brown, White and Evans are indicating that they wanted to speak. So, Councillor Brown next, if you agree.
Yes, I got Councillor Brown down here, yes. Louise?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a question, because in the earlier minutes it mentioned about the... Can you hear me? Sorry.
Go on, keep going. I can hear you. No, I can't.
An echo. It was about the gender pay information was in the minutes, and it said that had improved, and I think the gender pay gap was about 14.9%. But in this report, there's no indication of how these job evaluations impact the gender pay gap, and I think that's a missing point, and I think it's an important point. The other question I've got is, if you look at Appendix 1 of the report, I just wonder whether, obviously you've got a specialist external HR people looking at this, but I'm just wondering how well they are at looking at the operations side, because looking at the table in Appendix 1, corporate services and people services seem to do very well out of the changes, but operations basically don't. So I just wondered whether they are aware fully of the operations side of the fire service, or if they're a bit more corporate based. So I'm just wondering whether obviously it's up to the chairman, but whether or not we should defer this report to just get a bit more clarification on some of the points, because like Councillor Hunter Jarvie, I'm not terribly, I don't think there's enough information in this report at the moment. Thank you.
Alison or Andrew, can you respond to the questions?
I'll offer a response to those 2 points, Chair, thank you. So in terms of the gender analysis, we've had a look at this, and there are more posts, more females in posts that are increasing by grade than there are male. So that would indicate an improvement to our gender pay gap.
Hang on a minute, Alison. Someone in the background talking. Could everyone put their mics off, please, to start with?
Thanks, Chair. There's significant feedback and other background noise that we're picking up on this call at the moment. If members, as Chair said, put their microphones on mute, because that's where we're getting echoes and feedback. Yep. And then pop yourself off mute, if I could ask that when you need to make a point. Sorry, Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. So just to answer those 2 points, we've had a look at the gender analysis, so the outturns in that regard. Of the posts that are increasing in grade, there is a significant number of females occupying those posts as opposed to males. And of the posts decreasing, there's a a smaller number of females that are decreasing more than there are males. So overall, the picture is that there will be more females improving in terms of grades and salary than there are males. So that would indicate an improvement in our gender pay gap overall. However, what I would say is, don't forget our gender pay gap just doesn't cover corporate roles. It includes our operational roles as well, which is an issue for us in terms of recruitment. On the second point, which is around the operations group of staff in the appendix, these are corporate roles within operations. So they are administrative type roles. So from my perspective, I would say the consultants wouldn't have seen an issue with interviewing and putting these jobs through the system. But I'll just check if there's anything more from Andrew's perspective.
Yes, but what I was going to mention, and maybe to allay any fears that members may have in terms of the input from the specialists, they actually came in to help us conduct the initial interviews. So a member of staff, along with their line manager, would attend for an interview, which was just facilitated by the specialist. And the specialist, the assessors, were there really to advise if there was any confusion as to what a response would be to any question. The assessors were there to advise on that, so they were purely there to facilitate the interview stage of this process. And thereafter, it was left to the programme board to carry out any ratification, any upward, sideways, look at the grades and the points, etc. So the assessors, once the interviews were complete, exited the process, and thereafter it was for the service's internal project board that managed this, and they are, as the member rightly stated, they are the individuals who know these posts and they know the levels of responsibilities that come with each particular role.
Well, all they do is take the evidence, and then make a report, which we got in front of us. Am I correct? Whatever that information is.
Yes, they assist us to make sure that the interviews were conducted in a fair and consistent fashion. We had three assessors came in and sat in, but between them they shared all of the interviews between them. But immediately the interview stage was complete, they exited the process, and the remainder was left to ourselves.
Okay, so whatever come out of the report is here. That's the point at the end of the day.
Chair, could I come back a second, if that's okay?
Yes, Louise.
Yeah. Thank you for that response. I mean, obviously, job evaluation schemes often have points and things like that, and I'm just wondering if this evaluation scheme has a bit more about, the paperwork side and of things than the operational side, and it's just really to make sure that there isn't a bias there. With regard to corporate services, it seems as if your answer has said that effectively that includes operational people, but presumably that includes the managers as opposed to the people who are actually the whole time firefighters themselves. So it's just really a question on that. I would have liked to have seen a percentage change in the gender pay gap rather than just a sort of there's going to be more females or whatever. But I think I'll just have to be content with that answer. But I think it's just a question of asking if you just have a look to make sure that there isn't too much of a bias towards the paperwork side. Thank you.
Chair, can I come in, Chair?
Can I just provide an operational context? Sorry, Chris. They're doing a job evaluation. These are all corporate posts. They're all green book staff, corporate posts, not operational grey book staff. So there's absolutely no firefighter posts associated with job evaluation. This is purely corporate roles. And we've got corporate roles right across the whole organisation. They're not only in corporate services. They sit in training, they sit in technical services, they sit in operations, they sit in HR, they sit in finance, they sit across the breadth of the organisation, and they don't neatly fall into a corporate directorate. And I think to provide Councillor Brown that clarity, it is done on the role that they're providing, which is a corporate supporting role, not an operational firefighting role. There's absolutely no operational staff involved in this job evaluation process.
I assume, as in all parties concerned, we're in agreement on the way that it was carried out. I assume that. I'm not saying everyone's happy as a result of it, but would that be a correct statement that everyone was happy the way that it was processed?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you had no objections or complaints about the procedure then? Would that be correct?
Yes.
Unfortunately, the only ones who would feel were the ones who were brought down, the 7% that you mentioned, right? And that's understandable, because we've all been through these in the past, as you know.
Mm.
Anyone else got any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Sure, can I come in?
Yeah.
Oh,
right. Yes, Chris, nice to see you.
Yeah, for a slightly unusual stance, because I'm not going to make a financial comment, but I actually sat on the project board in order to kind of provide some oversight and input to the process. The comments I was just going to make were in relation to the scheme and the process. I believe that all 10 of the constituent authorities would have been through the same exercise with their own job evaluation scheme over the last couple of years, driven by slightly different factors, because the big issue for local authorities was equal pay claims at the time, but the process would have been exactly the same. And as Councillor Brown has pointed out, the job evaluation matrix based on a scoring system, with a system and overseen by professionals that Andrew and Alison have already highlighted. The key point I was going to make was the one that the Chief just made, actually, which is that this doesn't include any grey book staff. It doesn't include any firefighter staff. What it is all the admin professional and support staff that sit behind the organisation. So in that sense, they have all been treated consistently in terms of the job evaluation exercise. There is no question of bias to any particular group, because they're all in the same group. They are all the same type of staff. So I just wanted to re-emphasise that in case there was any misunderstanding on the part of members.
Right, thank you, Chris. Any member now wish to, any other member?
We still have Councillors White, Evans and Bradwick indicating.
Right, Councillor White. Dave?
Thank you, Chair. Just to make a quick note, I have no declarations. Came into the meeting a bit late and just for note as well. I just remember my daughter's wedding was lovely yesterday. I did cry walking her down the aisle, so that's another topic. I've been through job evaluation myself, but unfortunately I got an increase in my wages, and and as a union rep, and I've been heavily involved in job evaluation. It's not a nice process to go through. I think we can all agree on that. There are winners and losers. But in behalf of those who are losing out, I'd like to ask, really, I understand there's a 3-year program in place where there's going to be support with wages. Now, can you tell me what that looks like? And also, some indication, without naming names, what kind of losses are they having?
Yes, so if I can come in here, yes, we've agreed previously 3-year pay protection. So from the 1st of August onwards, they will remain on the pay that they are on today. We will look to, at the request of the rep bodies, we have actually looked at ways in which we can develop staff to obtain positions back at their former grade. And equally, we're going to ring fence and prioritise opportunities that come along where there are a skills match in existence, whereby if we can do everything we can to get people back to their substantive grade, we will do that, but obviously on a fair and consistent basis again. So there is those individuals who will have unfortunately gone down during this process will get a statement actually outlining the services commitment in supporting them through the next 3 years and making every effort we can, albeit the vacancies have to arise, but to make every effort we can to get people wherever possible back to their previous grade.
Cheers, thank you for the answer. Thank you, Andrew.
Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The question I was asked, I hope it'll be easy to answer. Have we had any appeals regarding the people whose jobs have been decreased rather than increased?
No, we haven't notified anyone of the outcome of this process. That particular stage, the communications and implementation of the process will follow today's meeting. So no one knows the actual the outcome of the particular job evaluation at this moment in time.
But they have the right to appeal once they've had the information.
Absolutely.
Right, that's fair comment. Anyone else now who haven't spoken yet?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Bradley.
Yeah.
Steve?
I just want to say, go back to what Councillor Brown's question was, and every member of this fire authority got every right to ask any question at a fire authority meeting, and I genuinely mean that. But when I got questions or which I'm not happy with, I get in contact with the officer to find out, so I can get a right briefing beforehand, so I know what, if I'm what's going on or whatever. So at the end of the day, that's what I had to do. But I'm not saying everybody got the right to ask a question at a meeting. That's all I will say, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else who haven't spoken? Sorry, you've been in twice now, Louise. Anyone else who haven't spoken? Right, Louise, there's no one else. I'll give you a minute. Can't hear you,
Brown's
Louise.
on mute.
You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. It does actually say at 1.2 of the report that it's corporate posts, but I think obviously the Appendix 1 made it somewhat confusing, so it might have been better if it had said in the recommendation, Fire Authority agreed to the implementation of the outcomes of job evaluation exercise in relation to the corporate posts, and I think it would have been a bit less confusing. Thank you.
Well, I don't find it confusing myself personally. It's straightforward. The report is straightforward. Anyway, I will move the recommendation. It's recommended that the Fire Authority agree to the implementation of the outcomes of the job evaluation exercise as outlined in the report. Is that seconded?
Second.
Right. Can we have a vote now, please, Sarah?
Certainly. Councillor Shaw.
In agreement.
Councillor White.
In agreement.
Councillor Davies.
In agreement.
Councillor Ellsbury. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ellsbury's not in attendance. My apologies. Councillor Hussey.
Yes, in agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Alley.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Norton.
In favour.
Councillor Williams.
In favour, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrand.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Morgans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Molson.
In agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
In favour.
Councillor Jarvie.
In favour.
Thank you. Have I taken votes off of all members, please?
Has anyone not responded yet? No.
Okay, that's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. And I also ask we record our appreciation as the Fire Authority members on all the staff involved with this particular exercise. So we record that, please.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair.
Thank you. Right, then we go on to 6.1. 6.3, firefighters pension on page 59. Alison.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, members, this report seeks Fire Authority approval for the work to commence on the outcomes of the recent MacLeod Sergeant ruling. This is in relation to firefighter pensions and in particular approval to proceed to implement something that is called immediate detriment. And I will explain more in a second. The report shares the journey of pensions over the last few years, starting in 2011 with Lord Hutton's review, where, as we all know, final salary schemes were halted and restricted in many cases, and retirement ages were extended. The paper also draws out the challenges in relation to the Court of Appeal hearing and ruling that the transitional arrangements amounted to age discrimination. It also draws out the government's consultation. So back in 2020, in the autumn, HM Treasury issued a consultation on what does the future of pensions look like. So that's public service pensions. And there was an outcome which was around a deferred choice underpin. And that outcome will allow members to make the best option choice for them at retirement. And that all protected members will move into a new scheme from April 2022, which is very similar in look to the 2015 scheme. In parallel to all of this, there have been some challenges. So the Court of Appeal ruling stated that there was some age discrimination in the transitional arrangements. And then there were some challenges in the Employment Tribunal around the FRA's role in implementing or not legislation that was later to be found to be discriminatory. There was an Employment Appeal judgment back towards the end of last year that stated that fire and rescue authorities could not rely on the defence that they did not make the rulings around the discriminatory elements of the transitional arrangements. And in fact, that fire and rescue authorities should have made their own view around whether or not those arrangements were discriminatory. So with that in mind, where we are today is that, as the report suggests, we are seeking your approval to proceed to set the groundwork to implement the outcomes of the consultation and prepare the service for the new scheme starting 1 April 2022. But also the report is seeking members' approval to implement something called immediate detriment. Now, what immediate detriment is essentially where firefighters can retire now and should be allowed to retire on essentially the best scheme that suits their contributions and one that reflects the fact that the transition arrangements were age discriminatory. So immediate detriment would essentially allow us as a service to provide two options for members who retire at any time from this point onwards. Given the challenges in the various ETs, there is no legal reason at this point in time to hold back and not to allow members to retire under the immediate detriment arrangements. In fact, I would say we are probably more at risk as a service, as a fire and rescue authority, if we sit back and do nothing. We've worked with RCT, our pension administrator, on this, so we've been in regular dialogue with them around the changes that will happen from April of next year, and also the immediate detriment position statement and arrangements. What the report does highlight is that to process immediate detriment cases, we will be working outside any formal arrangements, regulations, rules in relation to how we apply tax charges, member contributions, underpayments of those and overpayments. So we would be working on our best guess, if you like, in terms of how we implement immediate detriment. But that's the fact that we've got RCT and we're working very closely with them, and we are looking to move resources internally so that we really ring fence our pensions expert to lead this piece of work. The risks are minimal, I believe. If approved today, so if Fire Authority give their approval to proceed with the implementation of immediate detriment and to start the prep work for the new changes from April 2022, we would seek and allow any member wishing to retire from a firefighter pension scheme from this day onwards. So anyone given their 3 months notice of retirement from today onwards, we would offer them the two benefit statement options ahead of their normal retirement. So anyone providing notice from today onwards, we would offer them two benefit statements. Communications are a key aspect in this, and we have worked with the Fire Brigades Union, so we've discussed with them our approach, and they are very supportive that we would want to proceed in this area. And we've also briefed our local pension board, and I'm sure Steve will want to add to this paper. And we've briefed local pension boards who are also supportive of this direction of travel. So I'll stop there and take any questions.
Thank you, Alison.
Chair, can I come in?
Yes, Steve.
Yes,
I was going to ask you to come in anyway.
Thank you, Chair. The report, yes, I move the recommendations of the report, and it's the best way forward. You know, pensions is quite awkward sometimes, but no, it's a way forward, and I think we've got to do it, definitely.
I would second that, Chairman. I would second that and thank the officers who've done all the work on these calculations. I think it is regrettable that sort of that all calculations are provisional and may be liable to change. It's hard to give somebody a benefit and say half a mo, we might have some back later. It has to be done, so we need to get on and do it. And I thank the officers for the work that's gone into it. And here's to the future. Yeah,
I second that with the officers as well. And I'd like to thank Alison as well for briefing me on every aspect of this, 100% so.
Can I ask, Chairman?
Yes.
I know we get excellent support from Rhondda and Taff. They deal with these things. But what is the view sort of regarding the government's actions regarding this situation? Because it doesn't only apply to our service, there are other services. There's a whole lot of problems around these payments and these pensions. So, you know, are we happy with the way the government is actually pushing onwards? Because we seem to be just hanging around waiting for decisions to come from somewhere else. I know not where. So just a grumble.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh,
Councillor Norton's indicating, Chair.
I'm back to square one. Right, Dan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I just want to have a quick question. Obviously presuming on I do support this, but just in case obviously the organisation makes obviously mistakes in its calculations and accidentally overpays some members who retire, I guess I would check we wouldn't then try and seek repayment if it's obviously down to a mistake we've done with calculations with RCT and not down to obviously the employee.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Norton. In liaising with the individual member, we will expect members to sign a waiver that essentially is a legal document that reserves the right for us to review the offer that's been made and the member benefits that they've received. So we would have to go back and revisit once the legislation is in place, and we'll make sure that members are aware that that is the case at the point at which they retire.
All right, Dan.
Chair, could I ask some questions if that's okay?
Hello, Joel. Yes, Joel. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Chair. Good to see you too. Good to have you back. Thank you, Alison, for preparing the report. I've read through it, and some of the concerns that I have are more, hopefully, concerns that you can alleviate. You mentioned there in response to Dan's question that we would ask retirees to sign a waiver that may set out a number of stipulations. What legal advice, if any, have we sought that is compliant with relevant legislation? And then the question I have on the general approach that is being proposed, what legal advice have we sought? Because given the Employment Tribunal's ruling that fire authorities cannot say in their defence, well, we didn't set the rules, so we can't do anything about it. Ultimately, I want to demonstrate that, we've acted reasonably. So in terms of the legal advice that we've received, are you able to share that with members? And then the final question I'd have is, are you aware of what other actions are being taken by other fire and rescue authorities who are placed in a similar position as ours?
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Councillor Williams. I just to say, in terms of the legal advice, Garrett's going to add a bit more context, but there has been legal advice sought across FRSs across the UK, and in terms of the waiver itself that we will use, we've used a model that another FRS has adopted within the UK, but our own legal advisor will be looking over it as well.
Yeah, Councillor Williams, just to add a bit more to that, obviously we're in the process of gaining that legal advice. So it's not back yet, but we are, as Alison said, there is national advice out there, but we are taking our own independent advice from our external legal advisors, and that's currently ongoing.
If I may, Chair, just on that point, Geraint, is it appropriate for us as a fire authority to make this decision when the legal advice that we are due to receive is outstanding?
The legal advice is about the waiver, though, isn't it?
Just say the legal advice is the waiver, and obviously any ongoing recovery. As I say, the national advice is out there, but we just need to clarify because the waiver is going out from us as an authority. We need to have that independent advice on that aspect of it.
Okay.
If I could pick up the other part of Councillor Williams'
All right,
question.
Joel, all right?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, just to answer the other part of your question, Councillor Williams, there is a direction of travel across most fire and rescue authorities now across the UK of adopting this method, and it seemed to be the less riskier method than not implementing of where we currently are. And whilst the legislation is yet to catch up with the guidance, even government departments say that it's a position that fire authorities should adopt. You can get it closer to right than not doing it at all, which is further away from being right at all.
All right, Joel.
Yeah, no, my view is I believe we do need to do something, and I think that this is most definitely the less riskier option. And I accept that, on occasions we have to make decisions, and as long as we can evidence our decisions, then we're in a far better place than we would be if we did nothing.
Thank you, Joel, for the questions. We've experienced our problems in the past, as you appreciate, on a certain case. So we learn by lessons, by experience sometimes. Anyone else got any questions?
Nobody's indicating.
Right, good. Someone move recommendations 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Steve.
I move that, Chair.
Yeah. Did move, yeah.
That's seconded, and obviously.
Seconded.
Right. Sarah, go for the vote, please.
Thank you. If members could advise me if they lost connectivity during any point of that debate, please let me know when I ask for your vote, because I can't always tell if members lose connectivity. Councillor Shaw.
Yes, in favour. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor White.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey. Oh, I can see you indicating visually. Thank you, Councillor Hussey. Councillor Ali. I don't seem to have Councillor Ali anymore.
The secretary, she's overruling everything. I'm just got a difficulty as
Councillor Ali?
There is no way to go.
I think he's on another call at the moment.
Yeah, okay. I'll move on. Councillor Norton.
I am in support of it.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, report.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, my signal cut out there. I am in agreement with the report, Sarah.
Thank you. Councillor Colbrand?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Thank you. Councillor Spencer?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Bradwick?
In favour. I did have to go to the front door, but I heard everything to pick up my report for the meeting next week. But I did hear everything.
Thank you, Councillor Bradwick. Councillor Morgans?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, in favour. My camera went, but I was still listening. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Molson?
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Drake?
In favour.
Thank you. And Councillor Jarvie?
In favour.
Thank you. That was carried unanimously, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Much obliged to you. Right, we go on to item 7, reports for information. 7.1, carbon reduction biodiversity plan annual update on page 69. Dylan.
Chair. The carbon reduction and biodiversity plan, this is just the annual update which we'll be bringing to members every year now, following the Fire Authority approving the biodiversity and carbon reduction plans within the last municipal year. It obviously sets out those statutory duties against the Environment Wales Act, and as an authority and as a service recognising that there is a climate emergency. Within the report, there's two parts of the report: the general overview in Appendix 1 on page 73, and then the detailed action plans against both carbon reduction and biodiversity in Appendix 2 on pages 87 onwards. In terms of just a brief update then, some of the actions that we've taken, we've now appointed a full-time sustainability officer, and we're working currently to engage a graduate post that will work alongside our sustainability officer. And the sustainability officer is doing leading on some of the great projects that are ongoing and all the engagement work that's going on right across the service. And with some of our key partners in delivering our aims and objectives. The carbon reduction plan obviously looks at key areas within property, fleet, travel, technology, waste reduction, procurement and water. And then biodiversity looks at our safeguarding of species and habitats on our site and raising awareness and embedding biodiversity principles with all of our staff. I'll just raise one or two of the key progress actions that we've achieved. So in terms of carbon reduction, we've now got an electric charging infrastructure here on headquarters, and we're starting to put some on 5 of our fire stations as well. And we've taken delivery of the first 10 of our electric pool cars in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, through COVID, there's been a significant reduction in the need for business travel. So that's made a real positive impact on our carbon reduction. And one of the actions also was to make greater use of technology and video conferencing. And I think that's become second nature to us all now since COVID. And also with greater use of technology, we're also making great inroads into reducing the amount of paper and the amount of printing we do as a service. So members will recall the presentation I did last year which showed the significant amounts of paper that we go through as a service. And one of the other areas which I presented on that day was the amount of single-use plastics that we go through, which I think was in the region of 85,000 plastic bottles and 35,000 plastic caps a year. Really pleased to report that we made a huge impact in that and removed the need for both of those by introducing personal issue recycled water bottles and large containers, which are now placed onto our appliances, with water coolers put in place on all of our fire stations. And then in terms of biodiversity, we've had, working with some of our partnerships and with local authorities, we've done tree planting on some of our stations. We'll be looking to expand that. And one of the areas we're really targeting for biodiversity increases is with our wellbeing areas that are on all of our sites, and particularly on stations where we're using recycled products where possible to create the wellbeing areas. And then in these areas, we're encouraging greater wildlife through bird boxes, bug hotels, having green spaces and wildflower planting. So they're just some of the really good progress that we made against the actions. Obviously, there's a lot more detail within the report. I'm very pleased, to show the progress that we made just within the first year, and obviously be great to keep coming back every year and report the great work that we're doing in achieving our targets. So, happy to take any questions at that point, Chair.
Councillor,
thank you, Gareth. Who wants to?
I want to ask with the.
All right, Steve. Yes.
What percentage of the data we're recording year on year, and are we looking at that data to bring our carbon reduction down to a certain level? How are we doing that year on year? And everything we're doing, percentage-wise, what are we graphing to show that?
Obviously, one of the main aims and one of the main reasons of engaging the sustainability officer is to try and capture as much of that data as possible. One of the first initial pieces of work was to get a baseline data, which we did, which was part of the first initial report. But managing that data and gathering it in such a way now that we can report accurately and reflect it to members to try and achieve our target, which was set at 25%. By 2023, that's one of the key pieces of work that officer is working on at the moment. So we'd be in a better position to report that data later down, definitely by next year's annual report. But at this point, we didn't have sufficient data gathered to report accurately across the service.
Anyone else? Sarah, anyone else indicated?
Councillor Norton and then Councillor Molson.
Dan.
Thank you, Chair. So just got 2 quick points. So first, obviously, working at home has been beneficial for obviously service when it comes to obviously reducing carbon emissions. But obviously with rules changing in coming weeks and potential of people obviously starting to work more in the office in coming months, has there been work to obviously encourage people to still work at home, not obviously just for a COVID-safe environment, but also obviously for benefits it does for the general environment when at all possible? And is this could be something long-term we're looking to obviously encourage people to do when possible? And the other question is on smart meters. Because of COVID, obviously that was delayed. You said in the report there'll be progress from the second half of this year. Is there any more information you can give from that?
I'll take the second one first because that's easier. In terms of the smart meters, the contractors have now commenced installing the remaining, I think it was 17 sites where we didn't have them. So they've now commenced that programme of the installation of smart meters. So that should be completed within the next month or two. That'll be done. In relation to the home working, the ongoing position is still the advice is to still work from home where possible. we've been in a very fortunate position within the service where our headquarters has remained open. A lot of our staff have been coming in on a rota basis, so we've had a maximum 50% people within the departments working at headquarters at any time, so we've never exceeded that. But it has given a lot of flexibility to ensure people have got the best of both, so that they can work from when suits. But then also there are times where we do need people in the office, and I think it's good for people's mental health and well-being to be able to come into the office as well. So we have got that mix. But certainly, the approach that we're looking at is to have that sort of flexible way of working as we continue to go through COVID. But I think that's certainly a desire of the organisation to take that forward into the future.
I think if I could come on the back of that, Chair, if you don't mind. I think Gary's given a really good description, and we've had many conversations with our senior management team. We had a COVID debrief and lessons learned presentation last week, and I think our approach going forward is about flexibility. Flexibility so we can still service the needs of our communities, recognising that contact with people in a safe way is good for mental health and well-being also. But also for new starters across the organisation, it'd be really difficult for them to understand the culture, the values and the ethics of the service by picking that up digitally. But I'd also, ask members to also consider that the majority of staff that work for the service don't get the opportunity to work from home. They are within joint fire control. They need to come into fleet and engineering. They need to go onto fire stations and everything else. So the majority of staff do not get that flexibility. But where staff can, and we can maintain and introduce that flexibility, we will. But we will not be mandating that percentage ratio, how many days in and out of work. It'll be very much driven by local need, service need, and that relationship and discussion between the employee and their line manager.
Thank you, Hugh.
Councillors Molson and White are still indicating, Tudor.
Sue, here's your maiden speech, Sue.
Hi, lad. Thank you for this report, and I've got to say, well done to you all in creating and thinking of our firemen, creating their own wellbeing gardens. I'm quite active on Facebook. I see what's going on within the brigades. One locally, they've done a garden that's out of this world. All items have been recycling. Not only that, they're actually communicating out with the community as well via Facebook. We're dropping recycled items off for them to make this garden. So thank you and well done.
Thank you, Sue, for that. Sarah, who's next?
Councillor White.
Right, Dave.
Yes, Chair, thank you. As you may have known, Wales Government are looking to put 30% of people who can work from home to be working from home. Are you looking to gain that achievement, hopefully for more people?
Councillor White, as I pointed out, we very much taken the flexible approach, and it is very much on a department by department business need. That we as who alludes to, we're not mandating a specific target or number of days where people have to be in the office. Certainly for headquarters-based staff, is just that flexible approach where some days they'll be in and other days they'll be working from home. I think that suits us and the culture of the service much better than being specific in mandating targets on working. But and as Hugh said, the majority of the workforce don't have that luxury and have to be in on stations or within stores and fleets. So yeah, it's a really good a good thing for those of us that are fortunate to have it. And hopefully long will it continue.
Chair, just pick up Councillor Melson's point as well. It is important that our firefighters on station have that well-being and space as well, and that where we can work with local providers and use where we have upcycled some of our end-of-life equipment as well, that we will. And you might have seen an article or certainly some media stuff going out around end-of-life fire kit where we work with students to upcycle end-of-life fire kit into fashion, and we work with the University of South Wales so that hopefully that'll be coming onto your Facebook stream very soon as well.
Right, anyone else?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
So shall we agree to let the fire authorities note the year progress? Okay, just note. Thank you. We go to 7.2, which is Strategic Risk Register Report on page 101. Geraint again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll just keep this as brief as I can, really. The Strategic Risk Register Report is obviously the position at the end of quarter 4 for 2021. Page 103 of the report sets out that there was 2 new risks added, one for the fire safety bill and one for the Joint Fire Control Command and Control System. Again, within the report, there's a summary and progress against all risks set out on page 106. And then on page 109, it covers off the specific COVID risks that we set up, obviously on the back of the pandemic. I don't propose to go through each of the risks individually, but obviously members have had time to digest the report. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Or questions, or
if I may, please, Chair.
Councillor Shaw is indicating, Chair.
Councillor who?
Shaw.
Right.
Judah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I had one query, really. The very last item says that there are difficulties experienced in recruiting on-call duty firefighters and that we must keep this risk at the forefront of our thoughts. With that in mind, could you explain the reduction from 32 to 4 as a risk score?
Yeah, Councillor Shaw, yeah, I think the reduction, we have had a push through COVID. Actually, by modified ways of working, we've been able to have a good recruitment campaign and run a number of courses through 2020-21, which has put us in a good position. But as the report indicates, it is a continual battle. Sometimes the number of new starters we have is equal or even is outweighed by the number of leavers. It's something we continually looking at. We had discussion as a management team most recently last week, and we're asking the head of operations to bring a report to the current position to ensure that we maintain impetus in recruitment and our training plan to keep those numbers as high as possible. But as I think members would appreciate, it's really difficult to control when some of our firefighters start on the on-call, may be offered jobs with different shift patterns, which doesn't enable them to continue their employment, or they move from the area, again, doesn't enable them for them to maintain their employment. So, yes, we've reduced the risk, but it's a constant risk that we have to monitor and put steps to mitigate.
Okay, thank you. It is a constant risk, and on-call firefighters are always, as it says in the report, an issue. As long as it's kept in the forefront, as it says, then that's fine. Thank you for your reply.
Thank you, Rod. Anyone else?
I can't see anyone indicating, Chair.
Well, we all agree to note the report.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Then we go to 7.3, the end of the year health check and performance strategic objectives 2020 and 21, page 127. Geraint will start it off on the first part of the report.
Thank you, Chair. As you alluded to, the report is in 2 parts, the performance against our strategic objectives and the performance monitoring against those strategy performance indicators, which ACO Dewi Rose will take through that section. Again, I'll just be very brief, really, because the detail is set out within the report. Page 131 gives a summary of the number of actions that are against our 8 strategic themes. And then following on page 132, the detailed tasks then that have been undertaken against each of those areas are set out. Within that summary, it does show that there are some red areas, there's some actions that may not have achieved the level of progress within the last year that we would have liked to have achieved, possibly down to COVID and other delays. But obviously, where those actions are ongoing, they have been rolled forward and carried over into the current year, so there's still work in progress going on there. I'll pause at that point to take any questions on that part of the report before handing over to Iso Dewi Rose.
Anyone got any questions on the health check report?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
Right.
Sorry.
Do we? Oh, sorry, Val.
Sorry.
No, it's very briefly. I'd not really considered the water element before, but it's interesting to see that it's associated with the Department of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, but also to actually see the reference to the tombstoning at dusk, because I encountered a team of our officers clad in yellow suddenly emerging from the undergrowth a few months ago. So interesting that, Chairman. Also, yeah. So I found it an interesting report. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going along. And the water interests me in view of things. Yeah.
All right, Val. Thank you for that.
Councillor Shaw is indicating, Chair.
Right, Rod.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just a matter of interest, really. The report is, there's a footer on the report saying the Business Plan Action Report Health Check, which is January to the 31st of March. And that's sort of backed up by a lot of the narrative. Does that mean that this is going to be a quarterly report and another one will be imminent?
Geraint?
Yes, these are quarterly reports. Councillor Shaw.
All right, Rod.
Yes, thank you.
Dewey, you're going on now to the performance and strategic objectives.
Thanks, Stuart. Good afternoon, councillors. On page, the report starts on 151, and I'll just go through it briefly and put some context to some of the indicators. As members know, we report annually on 7 key performance indicators. Page 152, 153 includes a narrative and puts some context of the work that the service has been doing and the modified ways of working through COVID, through the business year. Well, when we turn over then to page 155, there's an indicator there, and what can be seen, it's a very positive report in that 5 of the 7 indicators are green, so they've met the target or exceeded the target. One of the targets are amber, which they've just missed the target by 5%, and there's one target that has missed the target by over 5%. And when we turn over to the preceding pages on 156, first of all, members will be pleased to see the total fires attended, 8% below target, but notably, it's the lowest within the preceding 5 years. Some things to understand the impact of COVID, and this will be picked out throughout the report. Even though the fires are below our target, we have seen an increase in refuse fires at 11%. And that's a general indication of the impact that changes to accessibility of public amenity sites that we've seen on the community by burning refuse in their back garden, etc., and the increase in refuse fires due to that. When we look at then total false alarms, this is the only indicator that missed its target by over 5%. And again, we can see the impact of COVID, where we've had an increase of 9% in false alarms good intent, and that's from grass fires and refuse fires. Again, from evidence, we're seeing this as a direct result of people burning refuse and burning grass as a result of inaccessibility to public amenity sites. Well, we should say the total false alarms overall has increased by 11%, and as always is something we're trying to understand. Particularly, we're trying to understand, which is a good thing, the increase in false alarm good intent to domestic incidents. We see that as a positive thing. We see that as an opportunity for us to engage with members of our communities and give them fire safety advice. So it's not always a bad thing attending false alarm good intent, primarily in a domestic environment. Moving on, total RPCs, as it says in the narrative, this is the lowest for 5 years, and again, a direct result of COVID. The restrictions placed on people either returning to work and the less travelling. Well, what is a constant there can be seen in 20% of the cases. We perform extrications and release, and this has been fairly constant over a number of years now. When we look at, again, the next one, total special service calls attended other than RPCs, again, we can see some of the impacts of COVID. We've assisted other agencies more, up 15%. Unfortunately, suicide attempts, we've gone up 60% to 11, 47 to 75. Bariatric incidents, again, is up 40%. And also, we've seen the highest numbers at 315, assisting other services with flooding incidents. So again, we can see the impact of COVID and the changes in weather from the types of incident and the broad range of incidents the service attends. Turning over the page to 158, although the report is good and the overall indicator, and unfortunately it is the way this indicator is recorded within Welsh Government, it's a good indicator in the sense that total fatalities injuries is down by 42%, which is pleasing. However, unfortunately, within last year, we've had 10 fatalities due to fires. 6 of those fatalities, accidental dwelling fires, and they are recorded, and it shows the causes of those fatalities. When we look at total accidental deaths and injuries, again, the statistic is down, and we are the lowest accidental deaths and injuries since 2009-10. What I would say to members and reassure members that one death is one too many. Even both the total deaths and injuries and the total accidental deaths and injuries in fires are very good in relation to the statistic. We are constantly working to understand why these accidental deaths are occurring. We do believe that the change in the accessibility, the vulnerable people living on their own, and perhaps they've received less support from either social services, family, friends due to COVID. We are trying to understand those, and again, a report is being brought back to the senior management team to see what we can gather from that, and it is likely, and we are sharing that evidence with our partners, be it social services, health and others, to see the role they can play in reducing accidental fires in the home to the most vulnerable. And finally, on 159 is the final statistic, which is the percentage of dwelling fires confined to the room of origin. And for those members that have been on the Fire Authority for some time, they understand the complexity of this, and more importantly, the complexity and how difficult it is for the Fire and Rescue Service to influence this indicator. And as can be seen from the figures, this is 82%, and generally within the trend of between 80-85% that this figure has been for a number of years. Tudor, I'm happy to take any questions. What I would add is the preceding pages 160 and beyond, there's an individual and more detailed report for each of the Unitary Authority members, and that is there for their approval. Thanks, Tudor.
Thank you, Dewey. And those lists for the individual authorities will be sent on to the members.
Yes, Tudor.
Dewey? All right, because it's important they share that with the local authorities.
Chair?
Right, anyone got any questions for Dewey?
Councillor Bradwick is indicating.
Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, Debbie, when you were going back and saying about the other fires, refuge fires and whatever, my committee, which I chair on my home authority, had a report on the Environment Committee that last year in RCT we were down 1,000 tonnes of recyclables going on things like that going to our CRs, community recycling centres. So it backs up that case. Yeah, in 2000 it's 39,000 and from 38,000 to 37,000. So it proves the point that that's what is the case of people just burning their own rubbish in their own back gardens.
Thank you, Councillor Bradwick. What I would say as well, it also, some people take it to our green spaces, so they dump the rubbish, it adds to fly tipping, and if it isn't fly tipping, they actually ignite the refuse, or somebody else ignites it, so there's a knock-on problem for this. What we are doing, we've got a refuse working group that is looking at this in a lot more detail and is sharing where they can through their PSBs with the local authorities, so they can actually have a joined up approach to dealing with refuse and the impact of refuse and refuse fires.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else got any questions for Dewey?
Councillor Evans and Councillor Molson are indicating.
Right. Dewey, in my authority, Torwine, the grass fires, the deliberate ones, have gone up. What preventative work are we doing to try and reduce the numbers? You know, it's gone up 26%. You know, what can we do as members to sort of involve our other members of our council to try and help reduce that number?
Yeah, so thanks, Councillor Evans. Through the PSB, we work with the PSB Community Partnerships Group to share the work that we're doing throughout all the authorities, including yourselves in Torvine. We will be doing patrols. We will patrol the area. We've got specific plans, I know, for the Blenavon area and the wildlife sites of special interest there. But it's the work we do, the patrols, using our community police officers as well, using things like the fly tipper app, working collaboratively with the patrols in the area. What I would say has been difficult through COVID is our engagement activity hasn't been as heavy as it is in previous years because we haven't been able to get to schools and other groups. What I'm pleased to say is as the restrictions have eased, we are now doing more youth work. Our young firefighters, we're going to start in September, and hopefully we'll be welcomed back in schools to do our educational talks and with the schools to actually highlight the dangers from wildfire and try to make those children model citizens so they actually become ambassadors and prevent the starting of wildfires by either themselves or their classmates.
Can I come back in, Chair?
Yes,
will we, you know, with the schools, will we be bringing that, there was like a sheep thing, you know, on preventative fires, which we watched as members, which I thought was absolutely tremendous. And I think if we could take that into schools, I think that would highlight a lot for the younger people, you know. That I thought it was absolutely tremendous, you know, to implement that.
Sorry, Councillor. So we've had a programme that involved Bernie the sheep and that programme, and we will reinstate the pantomime you may have seen. So that will go into a number of schools. There's also been additional funding from Welsh Government to do a project which is called Healthy Hillsides, and there's 7 specific sites that will happen. But even so, we will be using some of the funding we have to run the pantomime in key areas. That will be based on where we have the highest prevalence of wildfires. So yes, Councillor, that will be going. I'm not sure which schools it'll be going on in, but we will be using that.
Councillor Molson was indicating, Chair.
Yes, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, Dewey. I was a little bit saddened by how many vulnerable persons had died during COVID. You said in your report that you'd be talking to social services. I'm quite aware during COVID-19, support services not visiting their clients, they were phoning them. Our local housing authority, with those that were vulnerable and over 70 plus, they were contacted once a week. Was this the case with these persons? Were these persons not forgotten, but did they have support services in there, but they couldn't visit due to COVID? Can I suggest that if you're working with social services, can you also work with your local housing associations as well? Because, you know, they got their registered residents with them, they've got their age, they can contact them. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Malson. Yes, and I will, the Head of Risk Reduction, Jason Evans, I will mention about working with the Housing Association as well. In response to your question, there's general indicators at the moment that when you look at the age of some of the people that have suffered due to an accidental dwelling fire, and actually there's personal circumstances, that it does indicate that there's a link between their vulnerability and living alone. We haven't fully understood it yet. And as I said, the Head of Risk Reduction is going to bring a report back to senior managers so we can understand it. But more importantly, where we think lessons can be learned, and if there are lessons to be learned, we will be sharing that as broad as we can so that every one of our partners can be aware of it and actually help reduce risk. And what we are likening it to, when we do a home safety check, some of the enhanced home safety checks we do, they don't just look at fire. Our staff are not just looking at the risk of fire and giving the fire prevention message and education message to a homeowner, but they're looking at other aspects of their life as well. And what we're asking is, if somebody goes in somebody's home, not just go into that home looking from whatever their speciality is, but if they see a risk of fire, then contact us or put the member of the household in contact with us, rather than just look at their specific area of expertise. So if they see a risk, highlight it to us, and that's what we'll be asking.
Thank you. I work with the local fire brigade, and obviously we couldn't do so much during COVID. Prior to COVID, as I'm a person out in the community, I would talk to residents, especially vulnerable elderly homeowners, if they had carbon monoxide detectors, if they had smoke alarms, and I'm happy to announce permission was given, and I would give it then to my local fire brigade. They would then do an assessment there and feedback and fix the items that were required. So yes, thank you.
Okay then, Sue. Anyone else?
Just picking up on the back end of that, just picking up on Dewey's couple of comments there and Councillor Malison's point as well. You'll recall, Chair, that I presented a paper to G10 a few weeks ago, which identified, vulnerable in our community. Regrettably, some that experienced a fire death or fire injury were known to other agencies. So it's how we connect the partnership approach up into making people safer in their homes, from fire, slip, trips and falls, carbon monoxide, a raft of things so people can live safer in our homes. So that work's ongoing, just to reassure Councillor Malson from a G10 perspective. And then picking up Councillor Evans's point, we've made some significant inroads in the last probably 15 years or so, but it is about changing our human behaviour. So accessibility into schools, which is hard and difficult, and no doubt as they go through catch up with the curriculum getting busier, it's important that we maintain our position on a curriculum to influence right from foundation phase right up to Key Stage 4 and the Welsh Baccalaureate as well. Because in 2003-04, we had 8,500 grass and wildfires across South Wales. In 2019-2020, we had just over 1,000. So we've seen an 87% reduction through having a targeted engagement campaign around early intervention and prevention as well. And it's important that continues, Steve.
Right, thank you, Hugh. Right, shall we note the report then, the two reports? Right, thank you. 7.4, the Welsh Language Standards Update, July 2021, on page 171. Alison?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, members, this report presents the annual performance against the Welsh language standards. What you will see in Tara 2.3 is our own analysis against the current set of standards, of which there are 150. You'll also see that one of those remains in the red category. This is around social media in particular and reflects the reactive nature of the work we do. I think there's probably a discussion to be had with the Welsh Language Board on this, given the nature of our work and whether we'll ever move out of a red status on this one, I'm not sure, but definitely worth a discussion. All the ambers that you'll see throughout the Appendix 1 report are either work in progress, awaiting translation, or having in the midst of further discussion. We'll continue to encourage our staff to take up learning in the Welsh language, and this also supports the strategic objectives that we talked about at the very beginning of this meeting. So that's as much as I wanted to say by way of an update. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Anyone got any questions or comments?
Nobody's indicating, Chair.
We do note that out of the 150, we've achieved 142, so that's very, that's very good. But we still got 8 outstanding. But anyway, note that report then. Then we go to the 7.5 Forward Work Programme for Fire and Rescue Authority. That's on page 229. Sarah, you taking this? Or?
Yeah, just obviously sorry, Chair. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, the forward work plan is obviously set out on page 229. The agenda items on today are included. Plan is as is, then scheduled for the rest of the year.
Anyone got any questions?
Councillor White is indicating, Chair.
Dave?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know it's not in the forward work programme, but I'd like some sort of report, really, because I know as the COVID risks are getting less and less, and the Welsh Government are putting more onus on the employer to do risk assessments and things like that. Now, would it be possible in the next few months, if everyone agrees, that we could have a report just to gain an understanding what kind of they're putting in place? I know, will they be still doing the social distancing? Will they be doing the hand sanitizer? Because my understanding from last week's announcement, as we go more and more into it, they're putting more onus on the employer rather than Welsh Government putting in rules. So I'm just wondering whether it'd be worth us getting a report as an employer, as an authority, just to show that we are aware, and so we can support the officers in any decision making they're making.
Geraint?
Yeah, Councillor White, what we can do, obviously the changing regulations are changing quickly. We haven't changed anything as a result of the announcements from last week. We've got a critical incident team meeting that the critical incident team will meet this week to review the changes that have been announced by Welsh Gov. If they have an impact within the workplace, which, cursory glance probably doesn't look that way because it's more around the business sector as opposed to where we are as a public sector, and also within restaurants, bars and that type of thing, and outdoor meeting. But we will continue to review that. We have continued to maintain step with government guidance. But we're happy to bring a report back. Perhaps we can catch up offline on what sort of content that you might be looking for within that report as well.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, Councillor White, just for clarity as well, part of the guidance that came out last week was to make sure that all the internal risk assessments were available for employees to view. All of our risk assessments have been updated and maintained throughout the COVID pandemic, and they're available on our intranet site, so all of our staff have always had access to them, so we've been fully compliant with that all the way through.
Okay, then we note the work programme for 2021-22. I've had no items referred to me as a matter of urgency.
Chairman, can I come in, please?
Oh,
any other business, any items?
No, there's no other business, but...
But could I take advantage of this?
You're taking advantage, you? No, you requested, not taking advantage.
Okay, well, I ask a question. Can I through you, sir, ask Hugh Jakeman and his lieutenants,
lieutenants,
are they familiar with this document which came out many years ago? It's called The Future of Building Control in England and Wales. It's a command document. I'm just wondering if they are familiar with it, because I think this probably might be the precursor to problems at Grenfell.
Well, if you want to have a chat with Hugh outside Glyn, you know, ring him up and have a chat with him, all right?
He's a very difficult man to get hold of because he's very...
He's like the Scarlet Pimpernel. You don't know where he is. You don't know what station is he in, you know, where he's in North Wales. And anyway, get in touch with Hugh and have a chat with him.
Sorry, can I just come back at Councillor Holmes? Really, I'm happy to pick up that your conversation discussion on the document. I know Julie has circulated a couple of dates for us to get together, and I think she's waiting a reply on some of those dates for us to meet from your good self.
Yeah, the only thing is I'm away in Scotland and Orkney from Wednesday for 2 weeks. I've been talking to my colleague Susan Morgan, and we're absolutely delighted to come down and meet you all there.
Well, you never know. You might bump into Hugh in Scotland. He goes everywhere.
Yeah, but can I, before we sign off, can I take it further advantage? Hugh, are you familiar with that document?
Anyway, the meeting is closed now, but you can speak if you want.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right, can I thank